Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new series. You are the first to see it today. I've been talking about this for quite a while now, and we're going to be putting it into action. We are going to be ranking all of the major factions and teams in the game, basically doing a tiered list. You guys may have been following me for a while and hear me talk about tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 teams, and we're finally going to put that in application today because Grand Arena Championships, the exhibition starts next week on June 20th, and then the full-blown Grand Arena Championship starts at the beginning of July. So I don't have a fancy graphic today, unfortunately, because bar studying is killing me. 8 to 10 hours a day. I don't know if I have friends anymore. We're going to start off at tier 0 and eventually work our way all the way to tier 4. These are going to be the most important teams in the game. Tier 0 to tier 4 are the teams you're going to see very frequently in Arena, Territory Wars, as well as Grand Arena. So kind of consider this like your Grand Arena tier list that we're going to try to do every month or every 2 months. And it's also kind of like your top best teams in Galaxy of Heroes. So it's kind of a lot of different topics mushed in together. So it applies to a lot of things in the game, not just Grand Arena. Tier 0 is all about the best of the best in the game. These are the god tier teams in the game, and it really comes down to a Darth Revan, Darth Malik team, as well as Jedi Knight Revan that we see right here. These two teams are super important. These are the teams that are running Arena, and if you come across these teams inside of Grand Arena and you don't have the appropriate counters to take them out, it can be pretty difficult, and these are what I like to call the checkmate teams. These are the teams you place on defense if you know the other team can't beat you, and usually this could be an automatic win if you have these teams and someone else does not. Now keep in mind, there's a couple variants of Jedi Knight Revan that are very popular. These are the two most popular ones, your typical Jedi Knight Revan team with Kenobi, and then your Jedi Knight Revan team with Thrawn, which is really important for taking out Darth Revan and Darth Malik because there's not too many counters to Darth Revan and Darth Malik. Darth Revan and Malik are the best team in the game right now, period. So tier 0, nothing too fun. We already know what the best teams are in the game, but tier 1 and tier 2 eventually, this is what really defines the most important spaces for Grand Arena especially, as well as Territory Wars, because these are what I like to call your gatekeeper teams. These teams, especially in tier 1, are responsible for making sure you don't get up to tier 0. And the first two teams that really come to mind as teams that are very important now and for the future as well, General Grievous and Padme Amidala. These two teams are pretty much neck to neck in viability, and these teams kind of push below the tier 2 and under teams to make sure they can't try to creep up to those tier 0 lineups. Some of these tier 1 teams can counter these top end teams. For example, General Grievous is a pretty decent counter to Jedi Knight Revan now if you have new gun rate, and without new gun rate, he's an okay counter. About 60% of the time, he could beat Jedi Knight Revan. Padme Amidala, this first team right here that we have right here of Yoda, Kenobi, Ahsoka, Anakin, and Padme, they are known to sometimes beat Darth Revan and Malik. So this is why sometimes tier 1, they're important for pushing down the lower tiers, and sometimes they try to creep up and claw at those top tier teams. So a lot of these teams will be soft counters to those tier 0 teams. So let's start off with General Grievous. General Grievous has been a character that's been increasing in importance over time, and this does not even factor Gear 13, where after mods, it seems like you can get his health to be over 100,000. So this is going to be pending. Grievous could be a lot more important after the upcoming Gear 13 update in the next few weeks. But you have a couple of options. In my opinion, the best Grievous team right now is going to be either this one at top with Magna Guard, or slowly the one that's becoming a bit more popular is Grievous with Nuke Gunnery. However, the Zeta is required to make Nuke Gunnery viable with the General Grievous. There's a lot of variants of Padme Amidala. Padme Amidala gives you a lot of flexibility, mainly because her leadership allows for just light side allies in general to get a ton of bonuses. However, the most bonuses come in regards to Galactic Republic, especially when you're working Anakin in there, Ahsoka Tano, and all that stuff. So a lot of these teams you're seeing right here are Galactic Republic focused. Now, quick note, you're going to notice that sometimes you're going to see repeat characters in other teams. For example, Jedi Knight Revan, we see Yoda and Kenobi, and we see Yoda and Kenobi here. The rule of thumb is if you're trying to find the best use out of let's say Yoda or Kenobi, look for the team that they're used in a higher tier. So for example, Kenobi and Yoda are way more useful in the Jedi Knight Revan team, but if you don't have Jedi Knight Revan, the next best thing is going to be Padme Amidala. So there's kind of a logical progression with everything I'm telling you today. By far, the one that takes out the least amount of legendaries and other important characters is this team right here of Padme Amidala, Padme Anakin, Ahsoka, Barriss Zeta, which is required, and Chewbacca, Clone Wars Chewbacca. We made a video on him recently. This is the team right here that still holds on to that tier 1 bracket, in my opinion, and it doesn't pull away any important characters from other teams. This is the team I'm trying to build out right now because I want a good Padme team that doesn't pull away from other factions. Now we're seeing Darth Revan again. We're gonna have a lot of teams on this list because sometimes you might not have the full entire team. Darth Revan is not the same exact team without Malik. You need Malik to make Darth Revan a tier 0 team. However, if you don't have, let's say you're just getting Darth Revan right now now. He's still a good team. He's a tier 1 team. The core for a Darth Revan team is Darth Revan, HK-47, and Bastila Shan. And I left the last 2 slots open because you have a lot of options you can put in there. Night Sisters Zombie, Night Sister, Mother Talzin, team, Sith Marauder, Sith Assassin, Sith Trooper, Sith Assassin, Sith Trooper, Sith Marauder. I kind of let those blank because you have a lot of options, but the core to have this other tier 1 team is Darth Revan, HK-47, Bastila Shan, and it's just like the Sith Triumvirate team right here. Trey, Assign, and Nihilus. This team actually by itself could take out a lot of stuff on their own without filling in the last 2 slots, but kind of like Darth Revan, you probably maybe sometimes want to fill in the last 2 slots with other Siths, Sith Marauder, Sith Assassin. Some people toss in Count Dooku, for example, so a lot of things to put in there. I left those blank because there's no like hardcore rule as to what to put in those last 2 slots for these 2 teams that we just talked about. All right, Commander Luke Skywalker, very important team, very important for tier 1. He also kind of creeps up, kind of like the other teams we talked about. He can counter Darth Revan and Malik if you have a very fast team. He can beat Jedi Knight Revan, so it's a team that can kind of creep up and punch up to those higher tier characters. And I'm going to show you several variants of Commander Luke. In case you don't have Chewbacca and C-3PO, you can still compose a good Commander Luke Skywalker team, but they're just going to be at a lower tier. We'll talk more about that in a second. And to round out this list, we're going to talk about the Night Sisters. Now, Night Sisters without the Nest are not that bad. Nest makes the team a lot more complicated, and especially a Nest with super high tenacity. That's the key. You want a Nest with super high tenacity, so you can't apply daze, you can't apply stuns, you can't do all that other stuff. So I'm going to say that Mother Talzin or Asajj Ventress lead, whichever you choose, they do need the Zetas, and the rest of the crew right here, which kind of requires like old Daka Zeta, and Nest Zeta is preferred but not necessary. These teams right here are a good like bottom rung tier 1 team because these can weed out a lot of teams, mainly because how annoying Nest is, and Nest can be revived by old Daka and then all the plagues and the stuns. A lot of nasty stuff going on. I think Mother Talzin or Asajj Ventress lead, you can't go wrong either way, but I just like Mother Talzin lead because it looks like a little bit more fun with more revives. All right, tier 2, let's get into it. A lot of teams to talk about today, guys. Tier 2 is a very important rung for this game because tier 2 is going to be what you're going to see frequently set on defense because these teams are good. They're the middle of the rung teams in the game, and they can provide, especially well-modded tier 2 teams, can cause some trouble even sometimes for tier 1 teams. If you're using an under-modded tier 1 team against tier 2 can cause some problems, and like I said, of tier 1 beating tier 0 sometimes, some of these tier 0 teams can try to go up against these higher tier 1 teams right here. Most important team that comes to mind, Bounty Hunters. Now, this season, these aren't these 2 Bounty Hunter teams right here. These don't have to be the exact lineup. I just want to prove that you can form 2 full separate Bounty Hunter teams, but by far the best leads for Grand Arena, as well as Territory Wars are going to be Bossk and Jango Fett lead, and whatever else you like to have under there. Usually with Bossk lead, I like to toss in characters that apply a lot of debuffs because that means a lot of health to protection regeneration, which is very important. Having the Bossk Zeta on the lead, that's pretty much mandatory. Jango Fett is all about speed and damage, so a lot of fast characters, a lot of damage output, which is why you see characters like I like to use Jango Fett, Boba Fett, and Embo together. But again, there's no hardcore rule as to what to use, and the philosophers of our time are debating which is the better lead, Bossk or Jango Fett. They're both pretty good in my opinion. First Order, a team that's pretty straightforward. This team has been a staple for quite a long time. This is the team I pretty much always see set on defense. The best First Order team has First Order officer in there, but of course, First Order, there's a lot of other teams. This isn't the one team, but this is one of the best teams for First Order. You can put things like the First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot, First Order TIE Pilot, Captain Phasma is more of a lower First Order team. Then the Empire, Emperor Palpatine and Vader are kind of the core two. I kind of filled in the last slot 3, but really, it's Emperor Palpatine, Vader, and you can insert any other leftover Empire characters you want to use or any other leftover Sith characters. There's a lot of variation you can do. For example, Palpatine, Vader, and Sith Trooper is a very good combo, but some people might need Sith Trooper for a higher tier team. Now the Old Republic, Karth, the Zeta is required for Karth, and also, I would also say the Zeta on Mission is going to be required. This is mostly a 2 Zeta team, maybe 3 Zetas if you want to give it to, let's say, Zalbar, for example, but this team right here can be annoying because of Zalbar and Mission just hamming at you, and Kandor is constantly attacking with his basic over and over again. A very solid tier 2 team. Kira and Karth kind of steal characters from each other sometimes. There's a lot of different ways to compose this team, but Kira and the Scoundrels, another annoying team because it's very tank heavy with L337 and Zalbar, and Vander Chewbacca is responsible for reviving anyone that dies off. This is a super heavy defensive team. I wouldn't use Kira for an offensive team because it's a very slow offensive damage output team, but it's a very annoying defensive team, and Ness is a beautiful choice to fill in here. But if you don't have Ness, you want to use Ness somewhere else and you don't have the car team, putting Mission in place of Nest is another great opportunity because Mission and Zalbar under a Kira team, wow, that's annoying. Jedi Training Race, pretty straightforward. A Resistance team is kind of a staple in this game. It's a very good counter for Bosk and some of those tier 1 teams, not too many of them. Jedi Training Race slowly falling out of favor in general. And here we go, another Commander Luke Skywalker team. This one does not have C-3PO. A lot of people don't have C-3PO, but they might have Chewbacca and Han Solo. That still composes a very good tier 2 team. And I put Old Ben in here. I think Old Ben's the best replacement if you don't have C-3PO on your lineup. But again, if you think you have a better character to put in, by all means, feel free to do so. But Commander Luke without C-3PO is very important still. And some of these can still beat a tier 1 team. And then the rest of these right here, Mother Talzin without Nest is a tier 2 team in my opinion. And Imperial Troopers can mow over a non-Nest Night Sister team. You could do either Mother Talzin lead, Saj lead, doesn't really matter. And Bastila Shan, the best Jedi team in the game, that is not going to be Jedi Knight Revan. And Bastila Shan, you can do a lot of things with him. I mean, if you don't have Jedi Knight Revan, you can use Yoda for Bastila Shan or Yoda for the Padme team that I mentioned, but you have a lot of opportunities to do with Bastila Shan. And the 5th slot's kind of open. You can put in Anakin, Ahsoka, Barriss, Ezra, a lot of stuff you can put in the 5th slot, but this is the core second best Jedi team in the game. All right, tier 3 are not going to be the craziest teams in the world, but a lot of them can try to beat these tier 2 teams, for example. Not a lot of these will go any higher than tier 2, but sometimes, as we'll see, a couple of them are very good soft counters to a much higher tier teams. So these are a lot of oddball counters and just leftover things. For example, Commander Luke, we're seeing him again for the last time on this list. If you don't have Chewbacca or C-3PO, you now have a tier 3 Commander Luke team, which is still good, and Han Solo and Luke can try to take out some of these other things, and you can fill out the last few slots, but by far, I think the best tier 3 Commander Luke team without C-3PO and Chewbacca is going to have Chirrut and Baze on there. Ewoks, the annoying Ewoks, this team can be a sleeper team if you don't handle them appropriately. They will mow over you and laugh at you, but however, this is a team that Nest could take out all by herself. So keep that in mind, that Nest is a hard counter to this. So it's hard to say if you want to use Ewoks for offense or defense, but either way, they can take out some teams. For example, Ewoks could take out First Order, for example. Thrawn lead. You haven't seen Thrawn that much on this list except for the tier 0 counter to Darth Revan and Darth Maul. Like, the Thrawn lead is so versatile, but it's not a tier 1, tier 2 quality in my opinion, because the best use for Thrawn lead is going up against debuff heavy teams, and this is one of those teams that's going to punch up and hit those higher tier teams because of Magma Trooper, Thrawn, and Death Trooper. You could, for example, try to take on a Darth Traya team. It depends on the composition of Darth Traya, but by and large, a lot of the Darth Traya lineups can be beaten by a Thrawn lead, so keep that in mind. Again, if you're looking for a Darth Traya counter, there's a lot of other better ones, but Thrawn is kind of that last resort counter to Darth Traya, for example, and it can compose a decent tier 3 team that can be annoying. The Thrawn team with Krennic and Death Trooper right here, that's a pretty heavy defensive team right there that could take a while to churn through for a lot of teams. Darth Maul is going to be your 3rd tier Sith leader. He's kind of the Sith leader mainly for leftover characters after you've used them for Darth Revan, Darth Traya. People usually just use their leftover Sith for Darth Maul, which still can be an annoying team, but they could be easily shut down. 2 new teams that are kind of new with the recent updates, Shaak Ti and Nute Gunray, are in my opinion tier 3 teams. Nute Gunray and Shaak Ti are known to beat some tier 2 teams as well as some tier 1 teams. For example, Shaak Ti with the Clone Troopers can beat General Grievous. Tough battle, but it is possible. Nute Gunray, you've seen me do it on a ton of live streams. You can beat a variety of these things with Nute Gunray. For example, Nute Gunray can defeat a Kira team and a Karth team, and I think I've taken out a First Order team with Nute Gunray, and Nute Gunray right now is using unreworked Geonosians, and Geonosians are supposed to get a rework soon, as we got confirmation last week. I would not put Shaak Ti and Nute Gunray on defense. They are not good defensive teams, unfortunately, as of now, but maybe if clones get reworked and the future Geonosian reworks that are going to happen soon, this team has potential to reach into tier 2 very easily. Leftover Rebel team, you got Wigs with Wedge, Biggs, and you have Chirrut and Baze, and then the last slot you can put in whatever, Leia, Ezra, Old Ben, then Fulcrum, Ahsoka, a lot of things you can toss in there. And then Finn, which requires a Zeta on the lead. Not as good as he used to be, but still a good team that can try to take out some of these tier 2 teams. So Finn Zeta does deserve to be on a tier 3 list. For time-saving purposes, we're going to just quickly summarize tier 4 and the wild card slot. The Phoenix is a team, though, that could be in tier 3 I just want to make a note about that, but the Phoenix are slowly falling out of favor, and they're not really a good benchmark for a lot of things in the game. Tarkin lead, you can fill in a lot of random Empire characters. Nihilus lead, if you don't have any other Sith characters that are good leaders, you can use Nihilus lead. Anakin and Ahsoka, Anakin's got a good catch-all leadership that fits a lot of pretty much any type of characters underneath his lead. lead. Krennic and Death Trooper, I don't really recommend Krennic Zeta, but if you do have Krennic Zeta, it's a tier 4 team. And HK-47, quick note, with droids, if you don't have Darth Revan, HK-47 with droids can beat a lot of things. It's a damage-heavy Suicide Squad team, and HK-47 can beat, for example, a Bastila Shan team due to all the damage output he's putting out. And lastly, we have the wild card slot, which just shows a quick list of the most versatile characters in the game that you can plug in a variety of compositions and get some use out of them. There's not really one specific home for these guys. We've already talked extensively about Thrawn and Ness, for example, two of some of the most versatile characters in the game, but Wampa, for example, could take apart a whole Phoenix team by himself. Sometimes he's used with a Karth lead, sometimes he's used with Thrawn lead, Ewoks, sometimes he's good at going up against Commander Luke Skywalker. There's just so many ways to use Wampa, and the same thing with Hermit Yoda. You can put Hermit Yoda in a variety of teams, Jedi teams, of course, but sometimes people like to use Hermit Yoda with Nest and Wampa to make sure you're supercharging them, to make sure their standalone viability is supercharged even more. A lot of uses out of Hermit Yoda, and Captain Rex is just a versatile catch-all leadership. You can put a variety of things under him, and you can create a variety of tier 2 to tier 3 to tier 4 teams, depending on the leftover characters you put under Captain Rex lead. So Captain Rex is a good catch-all leadership in case you need a backup team for something. And right there, ladies and gentlemen, is gonna be your first of the series to ranking all the best teams in Galaxy Heroes. This is basically your meta report, top 10 best characters, top 20, 30 best teams in Galaxy Heroes. The game is slowly progressing more towards Grand Arena as well as Territory Wars and Territory Battles. No longer is really top 10 characters, top 15, 20 characters are sufficient anymore, because the game is not just about one character, but full entire team. So I really do hope this series is going to be helpful for you guys. I think it's probably going to be one of my most helpful series, but you guys let me know. Like the video if you did enjoy. If you want to see more of these more frequently as the game progresses a lot, comment down below your thoughts. Maybe some more teams on this list you think that should be here. Maybe rearranging some of the teams on these tiers. I would love to hear your thoughts, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.